Come on in. We got another special guest in the building right now. One of the best to do it. Greg Swartz of the Bleacher Report. I have an opportunity to talk to this man all the time on the radio on 92.3 The Fan. He's all over the basketball world. We wanted to touch base with him and talk about some of the hot stories that's coming up. Cavs is moving and shaking for me because I'm in Cleveland, but a lot of national stories, Harden, the Nets, and you know those guys. Ben Simmons finally moving. LeBron and the Lakers. What do they do? Trade deadline stuff and All-Star game stuff. So we just want to get right off into that. And thank you for being part of the show, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
All right, let's get into it. First of all, huge trade happened. Ben Simmons is a dude who we thought was going to move, might be gone earlier, but I mean, he lost a lot of money every single day. He was just sitting out, but he was determined not to go back to Philly. And then the developments of James Harden and him just 1 week being like, oh, I'm just going to not show up to stuff and I really don't want to play here anymore. And James Harden does that better than anybody, getting somebody to release him and going to the place he wants. He's the greatest of all time at doing that. How did this thing fall apart a little bit, man?
I remember, years ago when we were allowed in the Cavaliers locker room and the visiting team locker room. I was at a game in Cleveland and Philadelphia was in town. And at this time, Ben Simmons still had not made a three-pointer in his career. So this is, I think, 2019, maybe 2020. And it was obviously an issue, and it was holding Philadelphia back. And I point blank asked Joel Embiid in the locker room after the game, do you think Ben needs to shoot for this to be, a successful team? And he started with a positive. He's like, oh, Ben's doing great for us and he's playing great defense. And then he kind of by the end, he's like, yeah, he kind of needs to shoot. Like, we need him to do that. And then he's like, oh, but he's a great leader for us and he's doing fine. And then he came back with, yeah, we kind of need him to score a little bit more. So it was like this very passive aggressive way of saying like, yeah, we need a little bit more from him. At the time, Brett Brown was the coach of Philadelphia. I asked him like the same thing before the game, and he gave me some answer about, oh, there's 4 things I need Ben to do, and he needs to shoot 65% at the rim, and he needs to play. He needs to be first team all defense, and nothing had to do with shooting. And it seemed like Brett was kind of protecting him at the time, and he wasn't going to come out and be like, yeah, hell yeah, we need him to shoot. Like, we need him to do that. And it was, something that Joel Embiid was obviously, willing to say and admit. And that was years ago. And I kind of thought, ooh, like, this doesn't seem like a partnership that's going to work. Like, it doesn't seem like these guys really like each other. And obviously that's what happened. It eventually led to a divorce. And I think, everybody's going to say the right things now when everybody's happy in their new situation and stuff. The fact that you alluded to, James Harden's the greatest of all time at getting out of a situation. I wrote an article for Bleacher Report right after the trade happened, and I was kind of like, look, this is Harden's last chance. This is it. Like, he had some amazing runs in Houston, getting to the conference finals. I thought for sure, Houston had a chance to knock off Golden State in 2018, and the Cavs were going to play Houston. And that was, I thought we honestly had a chance to win if we could play Houston. If we were going to play Golden State, we had no chance. But if we got to Houston, maybe we had a chance. And I kind of look at it as like, this is it for Harden. For his legacy is on the line. He's accomplished everything you can as an individual. He's been an MVP. He's been a scoring title leader. He's been an assist leader. He's been a 10-time All-Star now. He's been All NBA. Anything you can do from an individual standpoint, he's done. The thing that's plagued him is the team's success. He proved that he could not do it by himself. That's why he went to Brooklyn. He didn't have to be the guy there with KD. And that lasted 13 months. It lasted 16 games for these guys. And I said, like, I don't blame him for not winning in Oklahoma City. Like, he was a 6-man, whatever. Yeah. He goes to Houston. He gets Dwight Howard. He didn't win with Dwight Howard. Kobe couldn't even win with Dwight Howard. I don't blame James Harden for that. Okay. So, next iteration comes in. They put a bunch of role players around. They let him be the guy. Didn't work. They brought in Chris Paul. I mean, look what Chris Paul's done the last 2 years, even at his age, an all-star, leading a bad Thunder team to the playoffs, leading the Suns to the finals. That lasted 2 years, and the reports were out at the time that they went 2 months without even talking to each other the second year they were together. Whose fault is that? Whose fault do you think that is?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is crazy. I remember seeing reports a little bit, and I tweeted this out, there's this video that's viral out there of James Harden like worshiping like middle-aged youth rappers. Like he's like, yeah, man, like I used to go to the club and then Meek Mill and the Baby and Little Baby and Young Dirk. They came to my house, and what an atmosphere. This was a once-in-a-lifetime situation. So I'm just up soaking up knowledge from them for like 2-3 weeks. And, you know, I know I'm not sleeping. I got to go to practice. So I would just roll out of bed and just walk from the studio or the club and go to practice. And I'm like, dude, you saying this aloud. Like, and he's like, he's comfortable with it. I could exactly see who was the fault in that between him and Chris Paul.
Right. And let's move on from Chris Paul, because then the reports came out that he didn't want to play with Chris Paul. He wanted Russell Westbrook. So then they gave up 2 first-round picks and 2 first-round pick swaps, which is crazy now to look at, because obviously Chris Paul is a much better player than Russell Westbrook to get Russell Westbrook. That lasted 1 year. And these guys were childhood friends, obviously played together in Oklahoma City, but these guys' relationship went back, 20 years. Both from Southern California, both from the same area, knew each other's kids. It lasted, like I said, 1 year. And then Russell Westbrook was like, I don't want to play with this guy anymore. And James was like, I don't play with this guy anymore. So then he goes out. They bring in John Wall. They played, I think, maybe 8 games together. John Wall and James Harden, 8 games. And then John Wall comes out. Oh yeah, James said he's gonna be happy here in Houston. We had a good talk. 8 games.
They did John Wall so dirty. He's like he's literally leaning on the wall. Then they deactivated him. It was like,
John Wall's making $44 million this year to do nothing. So I don't feel that bad for him. I don't feel that bad for him. That's a lot.
One day we might have to do the worst contracts of all time. The worst contracts ever since amnesty. Amnesty was like a get out of jail free card back in the day. People said, we'll just amnesty him, right? Yeah. Now there's some crazy contracts going on.
They were throwing amnesty clauses at guys that are making like $6 million a year, and now that's 44.
It was like, I'll eat that.
I mean, it was like, okay, it didn't work with all these guys. You went from 3 years with Dwight Howard to 2 years with Chris Paul to 1 year with Russell Westbrook to 8 games with John Wall, and then it's like, okay, Brooklyn has to work. It has to work because he did everything he could to get out of it.